The Sermon at Benares. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to discuss the story, the Sermon at Benares, identify the central theme of the story, and answer the questions related to the story, and enrich your vocabulary. Introduction to the Sermon at Benares. Hello friends, today we are going to watch an interesting story that tells how acceptance helps to move forward in life. The story, the Sermon at Benares, discusses Gautama Buddha's first sermon at Benares. The story, the Sermon at Benares, is taken from the book, Values and Voices, a college reader, compiled by Betty Renshaw. The main characters involved in this story are Gautama Buddha and Kisa Gotami. The theme of the story is accepting death as a part of life. Gautama Buddha wanted Kisa Gotami to accept the death of her son and move forward in life. Lamenting cannot lessen the pain or bring back the dead to life. The Sermon at Benares is an appropriate title, as it tells us about the first sermon that Buddha preached at Benares, on the banks of river Ganges. The text in the story was written in the form of archaic English. Let us now know in this video the significance of the first sermon given by Gautama Buddha, and how it helped Kisa Gotami. Introduction to the Sermon at Benares. Hi friends, to begin with, let us learn about the early days of Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha was born as a prince, in a royal family. At the age of 12, he was sent away for schooling to learn Hindu sacred scriptures. After he returned from his studies, Siddhartha Gautama married a princess, and led a royal life, without being exposed to any sufferings in the world. One day, on his way out for a hunt, Prince Siddhartha Gautama happened to see a sick man. After seeing the sick man, Prince Siddhartha Gautama saw an old man walking with difficulty. Next, while riding on his way, Prince Siddhartha's chariot crossed a funeral procession on its way. Finally, Prince Siddhartha saw a monk sitting under a tree and begging for alms. The four sights exposed Prince Siddhartha to the existing sorrows of the world. To find a way out, Prince Siddhartha decided to seek enlightenment. So, Prince Siddhartha Gautama left the palace and went out into the world to seek enlightenment. He wandered for 7 years, and finally sat down under a peepal tree, and stayed there until enlightenment came to him. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree as Bodhi Tree. From then onwards, Prince Siddhartha was called Gautama Buddha, and he started to share his understanding with the common people. Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares. In his first sermon, Buddha tells about the universality of death, which is inevitable and can't be escaped. Now, let us learn the story of Kisa Gotami, and how Buddha helped her to accept life as it is. Kisa Gotami, who lost her only son, carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking for medicine to bring him back to life. One of her neighbors asked her to go to Gautama Buddha, who can give her the medicine that will bring back her child alive. Kisa Gotami went to Gautama Buddha and asked him to give the medicine to revive her son. Gautama Buddha asked her to get mustard seeds from a house where no one has lost their loved ones to death. Kisa Gotami went from house to house asking for mustard seeds, but there was no house without any death. Feeling worn out and tired, Kisa Gotami sat at the edge of the road, watching the lights of Benares city. She thought about the lives of people, whose lives also flicker and go off, like the lights of the city. The flickering lights made her realize how selfish she was. Death was common to all, and no one could avoid death. In the Valley of Desolation, there is a path that will lead to immortality, if a person is not selfish. Now, let us look at some of the important lessons that Buddha's first sermon at Benares imparted to the common people. Buddha refers human lives to earthen vessels made by a potter that are broken in the end. So, people who are young, or adult, fools or wise, are destined to die one day, succumbing to the power of death. Even though loved ones and friends lament deeply for the dead ones, they will also be dead one day, just like an ox that is taken to the slaughterhouse. Buddha reminds people that the world is afflicted with death and decay. Therefore, wise men don't grieve, for they know death is the end. People who weep and grieve more will not have peace of mind. Their pain will be greater, and he will become sick and pale. In spite of all grievance, the dead will not come back to life. The person who wants to have peace should not complain, lament or grieve for the dead ones. The person who overcomes sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. Pope Buddha's first sermon at Benares helps us to understand the significance of acceptance in our life, and also to gain wisdom. While reading the text, did you notice anything different? As mentioned earlier, that the text in the story was written in archaic, or Old English, here are some words and phrases that occurred in the text. Here are the modern expressions for the archaic words and phrases. Conclusion. Kisa Gotami understood, if a person weeps, his or her sufferings will only become greater. Those who do not grieve have peace of mind, and will overcome sorrow. As Buddha wanted her to do, Kisa Gotami accepted the fact that men were mortal, and no one could escape death, a part of our cycle of life. Summary. Gautama Buddha as a prince leads a royal life without exposure to any sufferings of the common man. One day, on his way out for hunting, he happened to see a sick man, an old man, a funeral procession, and a saint begging for alms. Exposed to the sufferings of the world, Prince Siddhartha Gautama decided to go out of the palace in search of enlightenment. After 7 years of wandering, he finally sat under a peepal tree and got enlightened. His first sermon at Benares introduces us to the story of Kisa Gotami, who lost her only son and came to Buddha for guidance. To revive her son, Gautama Buddha asked her to get mustard seeds from a house where no one had been dead. Kisa Gotami went around asking for mustard from a house where no one had their loved ones dead, but she could not find any. Feeling tired and worn out, Kisa Gotami looked at the flickering lights at Benares that went dead after some time. This made her realize that no one could avoid death, and it is the fact of life that she must accept. Kisa Gotami realized unless one comes out of grief, one will not have peace of mind. The first sermon at Benares, given by Gautama Buddha, preaches that a person who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed.